Hi there, welcome back to the Rare Book Reviews channel, where I hope we're going to take a look at some rare books and share some views on books and some unusual thoughts on books, some thoughts on unusually good books. I love books, and I have a confession to make. I went to a used book sale, and it's a really good one. I haven't been able to go for several years, so I was very excited. And I made some terrible technical mistakes, so I do not have any video footage. But let's all just pretend that didn't happen. And I'll tell you about it. It was a great sale. It's an annual sale, and that's one of my favorites because they tend to be pretty big. They have a lot of books. This one is pretty far from my house, so I have been there before, but it is dicey this time of year. Will the weather cooperate is a big question. If it was close by, it'd be no big deal, but I've occasionally knock on because the roads were threatening to be sloppy, and I have this tendency when there's a book sale, whenever it opens, I try to get there maybe an hour or so before to get in line, because if you're first to the table, you might get a great book. It seems kind of worth it. Plus, the people watching is fantastic. So a friend of mine actually came because now I've unfortunately made this contagious. So she wants to come to the book sales, and she met me there. So we had kind of fun hanging out in line and catching up on various forms of gossip and speculating about what books we needed and what was on our list. And we got to watch the dealers get ready. And this is the kind of sale where dealers were from all over, and they were swapping tales, and it was so great. The people watching, so fantastic. Also, this book sale is to benefit a PTA. So they were selling snacks and concessions, which is not always what happens. So it's kind of fun to watch what's going on there. And the chaos of the line, always line shenanigans, always some kind of question about how a line works, as if we've forgotten, and somebody wants to assert that perhaps they should be further along the line. So at this sale, I got there right when they opened the outer doors of the school, and there were at least a dozen people in line. And, well, their things were in line because it was really cold. So people put a box or something on this staircase and then went back to their car. And then the president of the PTA came and announced we're going to open the doors so everyone can come inside. And we all shuffled inside. But the people that were maybe had left to go get coffee or something, they weren't there to bring their things in. What's going to happen? And some of them, their friends looked out for them and saved their spot. But we were pretty good. We were at least in the top 20. So I thought it was a good spot, and it was nice and warm inside, and we were busy. I had brought a book to read in case, and I didn't need it because we were having so much fun swapping stories and speculating about books. And then we went into the sale, and it was so hot. It was so warm. We bundled up because we thought we might be outside in line, and it was really cold out, and there were all these people, and it just got very warm. So there was that aspect of, it felt like we were in an endurance event, but I did get some great books. I didn't get a ton of books, but I got good stuff. I got a couple books to read. This I've been looking for a long time. I cannot wait to read this. It is gonna take a bit, and I'm super excited about it. All the hardcovers were $3. The children's books were slightly different, but $3, $2 for paperbacks. A great pricing scheme, in my opinion, and that means no specially priced books, so just everything's the same, which makes it kind of easy to handle in your head. This has been on my list for a while. He wrote The Underground Railroad, which is fantastic. It was incredibly well received, and then I read a review that this is also really good. And usually you have to wait a minute before these books end up at a book sale, so I feel like that was super lucky. I got this for a friend of mine. Louise May Alcott books were published in this format, this kind of small hardcover by Little Brown and Company. Let me check. Is that really right? I know it's Boston. Yep, Little Brown and Company. This one says 1907. The original copyright was 1870. So this is turn of the century, a bona fide antique. Look at the beautiful title page. It's got this tissue paper and a frontispiece. Isn't that cool? And then here on the copyright page, you can actually see when it was originally printed. It has these cool end papers in some editions that have sort of a flower print. This one is blank. They just have an inscription dated 1908. And that's just so cool. The webbing is showing, you can see it's been loved. This edition has gilt on the spine and then it's embossed on the cover. There were earlier editions that this was also gilt. They're very pretty, and I would think this is Old Fashioned Girl, which is not, well, it's not Little Women and it's not Little Men. It's one of the later ones. There's quite a few books, but they're all printed like this. So I have these. I should have brought them down. And I have 8. They're not all the same color. I should look for those. And I think there might be one more book. So I have a friend at work who loves Louise May Alcott, and she said, when you're looking for books, if you ever find them. So I've actually found her a few, and I think she doesn't have this one. So this was just a few dollars. You can buy these on eBay for maybe $20-ish. Any of the titles probably. Little Women would run a little bit higher, but I was so excited to find this because I know my friend at work will be really excited and happy. I also found a vintage copy of The Grapes of Wrath. This is really cool. The actual cover has this nice scene on it that wraps all the way around. When it has the dust jacket, I don't know what to think about that one. With the dust jacket, it has the dust jacket, but it doesn't have, you can't see it as nice. I think this is nicer than the actual dust jacket. And that is for a friend of mine. She's collecting these for one of her coworkers, so I will pass it on. I also found Dog Man and Cat Kid. I have a friend, her son will only read books about cats, so we think she doesn't have this one. This will go to her. And then some cool finds. This is an Edward Gorey book. I love Edward Gorey because I collected John Bellairs when I was a kid, so what's not to love? There is a way to tell for Edward Gorey, who is the illustrator of the John Bellairs books, so he is sought after both by Edward Gorey collectors and John Bellairs books. The same is also true. John Bellairs books are also sought after because Edward Gorey collectors love them, and they are hard to find. If you ever find one of these, there is a reference book, the Goreyography, that this will talk about all the editions of all of his books. Unfortunately, this book, the Goreyography, was published in 1996. Edward Gorey was still with us. So it's a beautiful book also, and it is very useful. I think it's out of print. It is a little bit hard to come by, and the original price was $45, but I love having it for this type of occasion. This book, okay, so the Goreyography was printed in 1996. And this book, The Headless Bust by Edward Gorey, well, he apparently wrote the text, and has that classic Edward Gorey look. This is 1989, so it is not in the bibliography with all the editions. He did all the type, beautiful, or the hand lettering. This one, I actually already have a copy, but I didn't know that, so I got it. And you can get it for maybe $5, $10 on eBay, including shipping. I got this cool vintage copy of The Wind in the Willows. This one is illustrated by Ernest Shepard, who I believe is the illustrator of the A.A. Milne books. So it's got that same sort of look. The animals are awesome. The illustrations are fantastic. If you read this book as a kid, this is a great version to have. I have one that is illustrated by Arthur Rackham. So you can see a little bit. It is reminiscent of the other things that Shepard has illustrated. Here's this one. They're really great. There's a lot of different versions of The Wind in the Willows. I think it's a great classics book for kids. This one, I don't really know what it's worth. This will probably go on my eBay page because I have the Arthur Rackham already. But sometimes I like to bring things home and see if I like them better, which is what happened with these. I bought 2 copies of Mary Poppins. There's several versions of this, and I will show you. On this one, on the copyright page, here it says 1962, copyright 1934, this, and then renewed 1962, and then there's a printer's code here, which I do not completely know how to interpret, but it does end in 62, so I believe that means it was printed in 1962, and the letter, in this case EE, I think is March. Someone feel free to correct me. This cost $2 because it was a children's book. It is price clipped, the dust jacket, the price has been cut off. It has a book plate pasted in it. The other copy, I'll show it both, is a little bit nicer. This spine is a little bit better. This one is faded. They're both, the title is going the other way because that's how they used to do it back in the day. This one is later because it has this thing saying it's a Disney movie. And this seal, some people like that seal to be there because they're Disney collectors and they love this book because of the movie. And some people do not want it to be there. This one does have the price on it. And it has these nice end papers with the illustrations, Mary and her friends. These books have these great illustrations. There are many editions. I have 2 on hand because I have this one, which is the Disney one, and then I have this one which says revised. And I will show you why they revised them. I think this is interesting because there's a lot of debate right now about revising books and changing them. And this one, I believe, there is a controversy in Mary Poppins, and it has to do with chapter 6, and it's called the Bad Tuesday chapter. And I'll show you why. And I will remind you, this is a book for children. Okay, there's an illustration here, and this is the part of the plot where Mary is going around the world. She's going to different points of the world with the kids. They're going to fly around. And there's a compass rose, and in the illustrations, she's showing the different parts of the world with these people. These are not the most sensitive depictions, and I think are probably, I don't know how much P.L. Travers knew about the world. So there's this illustration that is considered a little troubling. So it was revised. This is the revised edition, and it has that on the cover, but it does not have it on this cover. So if you ever have one without a dust jacket, you should probably check. And then the Bad Tuesday chapter, here it says revised because that's the thing that had the revision, and it's just that illustration as far as I can tell. And you can see they changed it. So here's the compass rose, and now it's animals that would be in those parts of the globe. That seems a little easier to take on board, and you can see why someone thought maybe that's a good idea. Maybe that's a reasonable change. But I think, I'm pretty sure, mostly sure, that they made that change when P.L. Travers was alive, and she sort of signed off on it. It's also not a big change to the text of the book. This is an illustration. So it's very different than some of the controversy going on now, where people are really changing the actual words in the book. But here's the ones I bought. Here's the ones I had. And I think this one that I bought is probably more appealing than this one that I had that was the not revised. This is the Disney one. So I will probably keep one of these and send one on to eBay Land, which is really exciting. I also found, probably for eBay, I have a lot of copies of Alice in Wonderland, but this is a really fun one. This is a series called Junior Illustrated, I think. It's published by Grosset and Dunlap, which did a ton of very affordable reprints, but this one's really pretty. It's got cool end papers, and it has black and white, the Tenniel original illustrations, and then it also has some colorized, I think, maybe not. So this one, it also has this cool, all of the books in this series have some kind of repeated thing on the front of the cover, and this one has the bunnies, and they're super cute. And then the last thing I got was vintage James and the Giant Peach. I love Roald Dahl. I read these as a kid. I remember these so vividly. This one we read in my 4th grade class, I think, during story hour when the teacher would read. And I remember I had my own copy and I would read along. And I love this. It is a very strange story. If you reread Roald Dahl as an adult, you will be possibly mystified that these were published. He's got some weird stuff. So this is the one where, because I remember this book, they're changing the actual text does seem really surprising to me, but it does mean that the original books do hold this memory for me. I remember reading this book. I remember the first time I read it. I remember the first time I experienced the story. So I really love this book. I have a copy. This is the one that I've had, and I have a nice protective cover on the dust jacket, and it is slightly bigger format. It has green end papers, and on the copyright page, it is price clipped, so that's no help for us to figure out what it is. But on the copyright page, it says copyright 1961. It has a Library of Congress catalog number, which is how Library of Congress system works. And it also says published, distributed in Canada by Random House of Canada Limited, Toronto. And I never completely understood, does that mean it was printed in Canada? I think it does. I think this is the Canadian version. It does have this on the back, which looks like an international standardized book number to me, which means it should be 1970s. This book was originally published in the 60s, I think. Yeah, 1961. So this number on the back has made me think maybe it's later, I don't know, maybe it's Canadian. It's that larger format does not match my other US editions of Roald Dahl. And this is the one I found at the book sale. It is in nice shape. The dust jacket is really nice. It has the same number here. So it has an ISBN, which I know came out in the 70s, that system. It is price clipped. It doesn't have colored end papers. And this is the copyright page. And I have checked, and I've seen some copies online that were true first editions, and they don't have this much text on them. This one also says, it says 1961, and then here at the end it has ISBNs for the trade and the library editions. So I know this is a later reprint, but it is vintage, and I don't know how much later it is. I can't find sort of a definitive, these points mean it was this edition. But I think I'm going to keep this one because it's going to match my US editions, which means I can sell this one on my eBay and probably come out ahead on these two books, not in general because I bought so many books. So that'll help fund my book addiction. So I got some really cool vintage books to sort of upgrade the ones that I had, and that was really fun. I love that finding a treasure aspect. I found some books for my friends. I had a really good time. My friend bought a lot of books as well, and she got really good stuff to read. And I got a couple things to put on the to be read shelf, which is full. And I just had so much fun. I had a little problem, like I said, with the technology, but hopefully it will turn around and I'll have better videos coming down the road. So thank you for understanding. Thank you for everybody who sent me positive feedback and nice comments and told me about their books and what they're reading. I just love it. So thank you again. Thanks for watching and happy reading.